Hey, how's it going? It's your boy Asian Psycho, aka ToaSniper98. It's been a while since the last How To, hasn't it? Believe it or not, I got bunked to horny jail once I started playing Genshin Impact, and I got Mona in a double 5-star pull along with Venti. And now that I got out, I'm about to go right back in with this video and the next two, though for a slightly different reason this time. As if I don't know what that feels like back when I made a video about Abby. Chloe von Einzbern is one of the strongest welfare servants FGO has ever seen, who debuted with the first PrismaIllya event, whose rerun should be going on at the time of this video. She'll also call the FBI on your ass if you try anything funny with any other Loli, but won't if she's involved. I'm not sure how that's supposed to work, but hey, anime. Just don't do it anyway though, otherwise you'll have self-righteous SJWs like this dude stalking your dick and sending you angry DMs on Twitter about why you're cooming over depictions of underage girls. Chloe is an arts DPS archer who spirit bombs the power of fat and hairy old men and skinny wee betas lurking on Sad Panda and social media to loot the ever-living shit out of other cute girls that you sent her out to fight, using swords that she definitely didn't steal from not Emiya Shiro. Original character, by the way, please donut steal. She's got 10,914 HP and 9,845 attack at level 80. That attack rating puts her on the high end of archer attack ratings in the game, which is great since she's kinda supposed to be a DPS. She's also got a 2A 2Q deck with 3-hit quicks, 6-hit arts, 2-hit busters, and 4-hit extras, and a 0.38% MP generation stat. In FGO, in case you haven't noticed by now, servants generally either have high base MP generation rates and low face card hit counts, especially on their arts cards, or low base MP generation rates and high face count hit cards, though not always on their arts cards. This system is intended to roughly equalize overall MP generation rates across the board for all servants so that one servant doesn't have like an insane MP generation advantage over the rest. So naturally, Chiwa Saito belongs to the latter group with low base MP gen but high hit counts, especially on her arts cards. But this results in Chloe really having to rely on her arts cards most of the time. While that shouldn't be a surprise given that she's supposed to be an arts servant, this makes her quick cards more of a liability than a useful asset to her, as I'll explain later. So like many servants, she would have been better off with a Nier Automata deck, since 2 buster cards instead of only 1 would boost her overall damage output considerably. This applies to most other servants in the game just by nature of buster cards, to be fair, but this is especially true with Chloe. Let's move on to Ashikata's skills. Her first skill is your traditional Mind's Eye, giving her the ability to dodge the Popo and horny jail as she runs around looting other cute girls her age. It's lag P if a guy does it, but all of a sudden it's okay if it's a loli going after other lolis apparently. Just as important as her 1-turn evade is the crit damage buff that she gets with it. At rank B, it only gives her 36% more crit damage for 3 turns on an 8 to 6 turn cooldown, but it's still a solid crit buff nonetheless, and is one of the 2 buffs that she has in her skill set that lasts more than a single turn, giving her arts DPS role a natural extension of becoming an arts crit archer too. Her second skill is projection, the same one that her Oni-chan has, all 3 of them, or however many of them there are in the game by this point. Unfortunately, now that Redman has his projection buff twice, and DW killed the Muramasa meme this year, Chloe's projection is a little outdated, but still a solid mana burst type skill that gives 35% triple color buffs for 1 turn on a 7-5 turn cooldown. And daily reminder that somehow Chloe has a stronger rank of projection than Demia. Imagine being a ruthless gunblade swinging Chad who looks like he's straight out of the Matrix, like his name's Morpheus, and then some loli who's based off your original version from another universe has a better version of one of your skills. Feels Demia, man. And her third skill is Kiss Demon, which is a battery skill, which makes a whole lot of sense, and probably not in a way that the FBI likes. It gives her 30 to 50% charge, 50 to 100% star gem for 3 turns, and as of its buff, an additional 3-turn 30% buff success rate increase to any Illya who's on the field with Chloe, all on an 8 to 6 turn cooldown. If you've been watching my FGO videos for a while, I don't need to go over why 50% batteries are so important in this game, so let's just leave it at that. The more important thing we need to talk about here is her star gen buff, which turns her into her own star gen for 3 turns. The star gen buff is the reason why I feel that Chloe's quick cards just aren't that strong, so bear with me here as I explain this part. In FGO, star generation is based off a simple percentage system, or in other words, servants have a chance to produce stars with every individual hit of their face cards, so if they have a 100% star gen chance, each of the hits is guaranteed to produce 1 star per hit. The game takes things like star gen buffs and debuffs, base star gen stats, which is what this thing on every servant stat sheet means, and card placement in a chain into account to calculate a servant's final star gen capabilities per face card and lets RNG do the rest. I have a video on how star gen works in FGO, link in the description if you want to watch it in full. Normally arts cards can't produce stars because their inherent star gen value is literally set to 0%, without star gen buffs that is. The only reason why they can sometimes make stars is due to the base star gen stats that servants have. But Imouto has a 100% star gen buff, which means that her arts cards, which have 6 hits on them by the way, can start doing what her quick cards, which only have 3 hits, are supposed to. Technically speaking, with her 3rd skill active, yes, Chloe should still generate more stars with her 2 quick cards, but the difference in total stars produced between an NPQQ chain and an Arts Brave chain, for example, should be negligible. That, and Chloe's only producing stars for herself since as an archer, her job isn't really to produce stars, it's just that her 3rd skill lets her do this for 3 turns at a time, so she can provide herself stars if she gets good cards and her star gen buff is active. The fact that archers also have higher than average star weight is nice too. But more importantly, this means that her arts cards are basically better than her quick cards in almost every way. They do more damage and generate a lot more MP charge, especially if you hit crits with them. So whenever her star gen buff is active, she has no reason to use her quick cards unless they're the only cards she has in a turn and you have to use them for whatever reason. Even if she doesn't have her own star gen buff, Chloe doesn't really generate many stars off an NPQQ chain or a BQQ chain, for example, only about like 17 or so on average, and that obviously isn't enough to guarantee crits for herself next turn, since she doesn't have her own star weight buff, unfortunately. So yeah, her quick cards still suck, and it would have been so much better if she didn't have 2 of them holding her back, so use them only if you feel like you have to. The added buff success buff that the skill has now is nice, I guess. Yeah, I guess you might be using Chloe and Illya together with Miyu for the rerun, assuming you actually pulled her, which, according to the FGO NA Twitter anyway, not all of you did. But in an actual serious fight, you're not going to be using the twins together like that, because Chloe is not a support, she's a dedicated DPS. Miyu is much more suited to that, and she's got her own buff success buff skill anyway, so you're not losing out on much by not using the twins together. And besides, Illya would rather hang out with Miyu over Chloe anyway. Basically, Chloe's 3rd skill got buffed because of, quote, lore reasons, the kind that lands you in jail or puts you on Lucari's watch list. Again, DW with their stupid lore shit. Her 2 passives are Magic Resist C and Independent Action B, which give 15% debuff resist and 8% extra crit damage. The extra bit of crit damage is nice since it does make her evade's crit buff a little bit stronger. Rebecca's MP is single target arts and gives her evade pierce for the turn that she uses it, along with a 20 to 60% crit chance debuff on whoever she hits with it for 3 turns. Note that her MP also has 6 hits on it, so with her star gen buff active, the MP itself is also contributing a little bit to Chloe's overall star production. Well, I guess now we know why they decided to name her 3rd skill Kiss Demon in JP. This MP is one powerhouse of an MP. It's single target, so it's suited for boss killing wherever class advantage allows. It's got Evade Pierce, which is great against enemies and servants who spam evades a lot, and there's quite a bit of them now. And the crit chance debuff is very nice to ensure that whoever you're fighting against doesn't crit your servants as much. It's even been used for farming before, most notably during Neurofest 2 during 2nd rotation to kill the Spriggan in Wave 2, and during Christmas 3's final rotation if you were insane enough to run an RNG crit farming team with Chloe, Gil, Merlin, and Mozart like I was. And in the future when DW starts throwing those infamous level 90 plus nodes at us that are meant to screw over Scotty farming, maybe Chloe will get called back to farm single target waves again. Lucini's job is pretty simple as a DPS archer: pop her battery, charge her MP, use Art's Brave Chains, crit with her arts cards, and keep doing that until she sent everyone to horny jail in her place. Give her 2 supports to help her do that as much as possible. If you want to use her predominantly as a crit archer, give her either a star weight buff CE or a support servant who has that effect in their skill set. Archers have higher than average star weight as a class, like I said earlier, but it's not a good idea to rely on just that since Chloe supports can and will steal stars away when you don't want them to. Remember that because crits double your NP gen and Chloe's an arts archer, a crit Chloe should theoretically be charging her NP twice as fast. So the trade-off between an NP damage Chloe and a crit Chloe is stronger but slower NPs and weaker crits versus stronger crits and more frequent but individually weaker NPs. Pick whichever one sounds more fun to you or whichever one you need, provided you have the CEs to make either work. Speaking of CEs, her Bond CE gives the team 30% extra crit damage but also reduces everyone's HP by 200 every turn that Chloe's on the field and has the CE equipped. Again, another weird Bond CE that doesn't have... Actually, no, not scratch that. It has no synergy with the rest of Chloe's kit. I don't know if DW got their own memo when they were drafting Chloe in the beginning, but she kind of isn't a support servant. Like, I feel like I've done a good enough job trying to emphasize that. I don't know if you guys kind of caught that while you're watching this video up until now, but yeah, she's not a support servant. She's DPS. So suddenly trying to play her like one isn't magically gonna turn her into a support servant, even if that's basically the gist of the PrismaIllya manga / anime. Yeah, just don't bother using the C. Stick to using 50% starting chargers or star weight Cs. A common comparison that's made involving Chloe is Squirtle, given that they're both single target arts archers. If we're looking at this just from a damage perspective, then MP5 Chloe, which is what you get for free if you finish this rerun, does more damage than an MP1 Squirtle, and for some of you, that's all you really care about. But to be completely honest with you, Chloe and Squirtle actually play somewhat differently. While their roles are the same, so for the most part, you'd use them identically, or with not much difference, Archuria emphasizes her NP a lot more because she can loop her NP even without crits, sometimes. While Chloe requires crits on her arts cards to loop anywhere near as easily, so you'd have to adjust your playstyle to each of them. You're also just straight up comparing a 4-star to a 5-star, and that's not always a good idea. Essentially, Chloe is the free-to-play churro who has higher burst damage and a 50% battery, so she's better in shorter fights that'll end in 3 turns or less, or around that turn count. But for any prolonged fight that'll take longer than that, Squirtle will outdamage Chloe easily in the long run thanks to her superior MP spamming ability, even in that comparison that I made above between an MP5 Chloe and an MP1 Squirtle. And ultimately, that's Chloe's strongest ability, killing enemies, whether they're bosses or mobs in a farming node, in a short amount of turns with a combination of her battery, NP, crits, and whatever relevant CE that you might have. And that's all you really need to know about the most dangerous Loli in the Natsuverse, who's more than happy to loot you first, surprisingly enough. Oh, how the turntables. You're still going to jail, by the way. Oh, and one more thing. Chloe is actually Sky attribute. You'd probably think that Chloe would be man, or at least Earth, or something, but nah, she's Sky for some reason. I'm sure you PrismaIllya lore experts can expand a bit on this as to why. Since it's just an attribute, most of the time, none of you need to care about this, but if you've ever wondered why Chloe didn't hit as hard as you expected against Salter during her memorial quest, then yeah, maybe keep this in mind going into the future. Thanks for watching. I'll try to get back on my YouTube game a bit more now that it's a new year, but IRL stuff's been kicking my ass lately and it's only going to get worse for the first half of this year, so bear with me a little longer. As a bonus, I've made not just 1, but 2 extra videos for y'all since the PrismaIllya rerun's going on right now, and they should come out later on today at the time of this video release. And until next time, deuces.